In this video, we're going to be continuing on with activity 1.3.3, constraining a sketch, and we're going to be looking at steps 9 through 16. So in order to get started, we're actually going to start off with a new part file. I'm actually going to expand the folder and choose the metric folder and start off with a standard millimeter IPT for this particular part. In this scenario, we're going to go ahead and start a 2D sketch on the XY plane, just like how we've been kind of working. And I'm going to go ahead and take the line tool and draw. I'm actually going to kind of stop short of the origin here and kind of maintain just kind of the shape is what we're looking for. We're not necessarily looking for specific dimensions, but as they kind of show in step 10, that's what we're kind of looking to have. Alright, notice this is the kind of shape that we end up getting out of that sketch, and with it we can kind of take a look at what automatic constraints that were kind of shown and provided. So probably the easiest thing is to go up here into the constraint panel and say show constraints. Let's go ahead and click, hold down our mouse and highlight and select all of our geometry here. And you can see all of the various constraints that were applied automatically as we were sketching and creating that sketch. So here we have a perpendicular between these two lines. We have perpendicular between those two, between these two, parallels on there, and we have perpendiculars being applied there. So Inventor is trying to help you by applying some constraints. And notice that you can select some of these lines. I'm actually going to see how this command is still active. I'm going to right click and just say OK, and I can click on my lines to kind of see that, hey, we actually have some scenarios where both of these lines are in the same position. If I go to drag this line, that's the effect that it has. This line, the same kind of thing. And if I drag any of these others, kind of how it keeps these two the same, but also a little bit not so much. So again, those automatic constraints, and even as I try to move any of these, even on a point or anything like that, you're going to see those constraints are just going to kind of get messed with. But these are always going to be maintaining parallel to each other, even as I click and drag. So again, removing a few of the constraints can kind of change the behavior. So for example, if I select a perpendicular constraint and select delete on my keyboard, I can actually kind of move and kind of change some stuff around here. Same thing, sometimes it's kind of difficult to grab like the endpoint on there because there's a coincident constraint. Let me see if I can move these off here. But this is the kind of thing that you can kind of do to try to see that, hey, if I kind of go between an angle or anything like that, I can kind of get some of these different items here. Same thing if I select this line and kind of move and kind of change some of those items. So removing constraints will definitely do that. If I take the parallel off, I'm actually able to kind of adjust, and as well as taking off some of these perpendiculars and to be able to kind of remove and see how some of those constraints. Same thing here if I get rid of this horizontal constraint. If I try to drag and kind of move around, I can also kind of do some of those kind of items as well. So maybe it might be worth hiding all the constraints. And then when I select an endpoint, here we go. Now I can kind of grab that endpoint. Same thing here. There we are. So usually when the constraint glyphs are open, it's a little harder to grab these endpoints. And now you can kind of see what's kind of going on there. Since I took away that perpendicular constraint, if I take away this perpendicular constraint by right-clicking on it and saying delete, or you can delete it with the delete key on your keyboard, you can see now here's where I no longer have that 90-degree angle being represented. So just to kind of play around with that a little bit, just to show you how to look with that. And they want us to discard our sketch for step number 15. So rather than kind of starting a brand new sketch, I'm actually just going to click and hold down, select all my sketch geometry that I don't want, press the delete key on my keyboard, and I'm going to stay active in this sketch environment for sketch 1. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to draw kind of what they're looking for. For line number 1, I'm going to go up here and grab the line tool. I'm going to go ahead and just touch the origin But I'm going to start off here because you're going to notice you get like a snap point where you're snapping in line with the origin. So I'm actually going to go ahead and click and draw a line over past the origin and kind of set it up like this. I'm going to right click and say OK because that's line number 1. Line number 2, we actually want to, I'll go ahead and run the line command once again. I want to make sure I connect to the end point of that line. You'll notice you'll get a green dot whenever you make that happen. That's going to create a coincident constraint between the endpoints of those two lines. And it's also going to, as I draw up, you're going to notice there's going to be a vertical constraint kind of icon that pops up, and that's going to create a 90-degree kind of perpendicular between these two lines. So I'm going to draw that up. I'm actually going to draw over a little bit like this. I'm going to stop short just kind of the origin, just a small amount. And then for line number 4, I'm going to kind of cross over that y-axis a little bit, kind of at an angle, and click to place kind of like this. So just scrolling through to kind of show the path, I'm going to draw a vertical line going up like this. We're going to have line number 6 is going to kind of go down a little bit at an angle like so. And then we're going to go ahead and finish this out by creating a vertical line. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of go down like this just a little bit. Going to go at an angle here. Not line number 9 will be here, and then I'm going to connect back again, making sure I get a green dot to connect to the endpoint of that line. I can right click and say OK to stop drawing lines, and this kind of becomes the sketch that we want to create for the next video that we're going to look at. So this is ending out step number 16. What we're going to do is go ahead and finish the sketch, and in order to save this you have to finish the sketch. So I'm going to go ahead and select save. We're going to go ahead and call this T bracket because that's going to be the ending of this, and go ahead and select the save option. If we go ahead and close this file, we can go ahead and do so. And in the next video, we'll open it back up, get back into the sketch, and start making some changes.